candid conversations, unfiltered opinions, and humor with Abeg Vex Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great episode. I have my friend, I can say that, Richard Blank. Hi, Richard.
How are you today? I'm so happy to be with you and your amazing audience.
Same here, same here. Richard and I got to talk a little bit a few weeks ago, and we had such a great conversation. And today we're continuing that, but we want to put all of you into it, right? And this is a conversation that I am sure somebody or a group of people are going to take something from it, apply it to your lives, or apply it to what you do in life. So, Richard, today we're going to talk about communication and human relationship or human interaction. That is heavy.
Oh, it is, but it's quite simple as well. You always want to walk away from a conversation feeling better.
I'm looking forward to it. So let's jump in. Let's jump in. So communication, what is the essence of communication?
The first thing is clarity. You can always make your point and you can put in your passion and an emotion, but if it's not received where it could be understood and processed, you might have to repeat it, you waste time, and there's frustration. And so we try to keep it simple, stupid. We use 30-second attention spans. And we choose certain vocabulary which will not evoke a defense or an ego. We try to have conversations that could be prolonged.
Right.
And we ask follow-up or even open-ended questions so people can give us descriptions. And instead of us assuming the right side, it could be the left side. So grab onto the tail and hold on for the ride. And it's a beautiful dance. There is an art of speech. If it's well practiced, you become extremely well-versed. And people see it as being clever in a craft. And if you can do it in 2 languages, my term, and you, my friend, 3 languages, it only bears the mark of higher education. It shows structure, discipline, and advanced cognitive skills. Right. So if you're ever trying to relate to somebody or show a solid first impression, you can't beat that. It really shows dedicated practice and dedication. And so it's a wonderful way to interact in the world. And so I've seen it as a gift.
Right. Why should somebody care? You know, you said something important that you have to, in communication, be mindful of the words you use in order not to invoke ego or defensiveness in the other person. Why should I care?
Do you want to have friends? Would you like to be invited or considered? Because there are people that can be boisterous, but if they can back it up and it's just their own general patent personality, that's great. That's just who they are, you know? Okay. But if you have somebody that cannot produce, that is loud, complains, curses, you might not want them around. They're toxic. And some people have never been taught that way. They've only known profanity. There's nothing wrong with slang, but it's not appropriate in every situation, but it is in some. And so you just need to know the best way to get closer to somebody where they might want to make a second time to see you. They might take into consideration calling you or your resources.
Right.
And so there's a positive or a negative reinforcement that people can give to you. And as much as in your mind you think you may be in control, you're not in control if no one's contacting you. And so it's a give or take. And sometimes, if I may make a suggestion, you should be the assertive one. Like when I was growing up, my mother used to make the phone calls to her friends so she could have plans on the weekend. I mean, we'd get calls as well, but she was a socialite. And so it taught me to be assertive. I like with you and I reached out to you originally and said, I love your podcast and let's communicate. And we did. And so don't be aggressive. Because it might be offensive and you don't know people's boundaries. But there's nothing wrong with sitting in the front row, raising your hand, or after class walking up and saying, Professor, that was fantastic. My name is Richard Blank. I just wanted to let you know. You don't need to give me a better grade, which I hope you do. But there's nothing wrong. And I've done things where I've written certain artists and actors and musicians, and from time to time you get something back. And especially with Cameo, which is so funny because a lot of my favorite actors from the 80s are there and you can afford them. And it's amazing to get, Reggie Jackson wrote me. It was great. But no, it's fun stuff. But communication since the whole world communicates, it's not like you have to go to a seminar once a year or in the hospital have a piece of equipment or be in a certain situation with a certain. No, it's 24/7. And so those that really see that in life, and it's more living in the now. And you're not being intrusive and prying, but if you're sitting next to somebody on the train and they're having a conversation, you can't help but hear it. And there's nothing wrong with gauging tone, rate, pitch, duration, semantics, phonetics. Are they stoic? Do they have any composure? Or are they screaming and yelling and cursing? And so, it's the self-destruction. Everyone always loves to see the person cursing and kicking and Jerry Maguiring because they always kind of want to do it, but they don't have it in them just to let go and be completely vulnerable and free to scream and cry. And it's very therapeutic. That's why they made a movie after them.
Right.
Usually you see someone's lowest point, but they're not crying out for help. They're just liberating themselves like Phoenix from the ashes. Damn it. They're shedding some skin. You know that. Sometimes you have to get it out.
Right.
And then you become reborn. And as long as you didn't say something too low and too mean, where you can't take it back,
Right.
or you broke a window, if you just had a moment, you can make a phone call and apologize. But you realize that stage of your life is over. And so once again, if you're very attentive to your communication and relationships and how you've matured and how you see things differently now than you did in the past when you didn't have impulse control, that's maturity, right?
It is. So given we all have different kind of influences in our lives, right? Whether it is cultural or family dynamic or environmental in a sense. How much of that do you think affects our communication with others or relations with others?
The worst thing is pulling the curtain back and seeing the Wizard of Oz being that little man with buttons and controls. You never want to meet your heroes. And it's the baseball coach or the teacher that lets you write the paper a second time so you didn't fail. So you didn't have to go home and tell your parents you didn't get in trouble. There are some people that give second and third chances. And it's the cop that was the bad kid growing up, but then realized how to speak to kids. It's really the guy, the pilot, that's done it for 30 years. And so my mentors are the ones that balanced my bike, pulled me aside and said, Richie boy, you can't do this anymore because A, B, and C. And some man or woman that gave me a second chance because I was so stupid and really immature and not taking life seriously that they kind of snapped me into it. And so it sure, through academics, my dedicated Spanish teacher in high school really set me on the path. She motivated me to study the second language, which none of my friends did. It was a prerequisite. People were majoring in medicine and law and architecture, going into family business. Of course, my ice hockey coaches, I met Bernie Parent one time, Flyers goaltender, that's my hero. I love playing hockey. I played throughout college and a little bit of men's leagues, post-grad. And so I don't know, maybe it's just someone that passes the candle flame to your candle. Besides giving you light, there is some sort of energy transfer, even if it's 1 second's worth of a smile or a handshake or a go, Richard, go. And so I can't put my idols into people. I mean, I love athletics. And as I mentioned, Bernie Parent, those are the heroes. And I was fortunate to meet them. But, most of your heroes should be, once again, your parents or a sibling or a best friend that you could laugh and cry with. Or as I mentioned before, that teacher, that coach, or that individual that saw something very, very special in you and called the balls and the strikes, right? The Jersey way, giving you a little bit of guilt. Let you know, you're better than this. I've seen you at your best. So they get disappointed in you more than angry. And that is the sort of thing that will give you 2 sticks to whittle to get that spark or that flint. They will give it to you. They'll teach you to fish. And God bless them, especially for those that gave me the first job. I didn't have the qualifications. I just had a smile and personality. And they go, damn, this kid's going to be good. He's like a rough diamond. He's raw. I was raw. I didn't know what I was doing. I was zigging, zagging. And I'm very thankful and I'm very considerate for that. And I'll end on this point. I do extend a second language scholarship to the proud Abington High School in Northeast Philadelphia. So I've done that since my very good friend, the principal, Angelo Barrios, got promoted to superintendent of Bucks County. And so I got involved. And then I got into the Hall of Fame for this. And so people are like, what, are you still wearing your Letterman's jacket? No, no. Even though I did love high school in the late 80s, early 90s. But you know what you guys did to me? You know how you made me feel during the most vulnerable years and assisting me. So of course I'm going to pay it forward and give back in my own way. And I'm doing it from Costa Rica. And so I hope everybody has their own circles that become complete, and that they realize the 1,000 thank yous that it took for them to get there, and to go back and hide a second time and let them know that. That's the beauty of communication, my friend, being that one that's open to make that sort of gesture.
Yeah. So when we're talking about cultural nuances, right? You're in Costa Rica now.
Yeah.
And the Costa Rican culture is very different from the American culture, right? How much adjustment did you have to make to communicate in a culturally appropriate way? Or would you say, if you have the right tools, respect for one another, being polite when required, or just being a decent human being, that can actually help you in whatever society you find yourself to communicate appropriately and assimilate well, as opposed to being really rough around the edges and not being considerate of people around you.
Allow me to be candid.
Yes.
Okay, the world is not made of rainbows, butterflies, and unicorns. There are certain situations where I do not disclose that I am bilingual. Look at me. I stand out. It's not like I walk around in a suit all day, but come on, man. Seriously. So what am I? I'm a blanco. I'm a target. I'm an Anglo-Sajon. I'm an extranjero. And so certain situations, of course, I'll speak Spanish immediately. But others, I'll sit back and wait just to see if Tommy, Joey, and Billy are saying, hey, let's go see what we can do with him in Boys Town. No, I don't want that. And so I've used it as a very protective, preventative advantage for me.
Right.
But then again, no, let's get back to this. Costa Rica has some other advantages than Europe and the East. Why? Our proxemics to the United States. I'm a couple-hour flight from Miami. We're on Mountain Time Zone. We're the only democratic society in Central America, so there's a lot of similarities between that and the United States compared to communism and other sort of countries that have dictatorships.
Right.
And so we have a large infrastructure here. So once again, people their living standards are better. The majority of the people here speak English, at least tourist English, at a very neutral accent level, which is very nice. There's a lot of North Americans that come here to retire and vacation. So just through interaction, they become more attuned to the North American market. So putting all of those things into consideration, then I come here. And so it was almost like starting off at second base.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that tough. It's T-ball. All I need, and with speaking Spanish, third base.
Right.
I just needed to know how to get home. And so I always like to be observing, but not too much, because then that some people could find that as being offensive if you do not participate.
Right.
But I always like to ask for clarification, not conflict, because I'd rather say, should I press the red button or blue button before pressing the red button and getting in trouble?
Right.
And so I would always wait to see who sits down, who stands up, how they serve the food. It's fun. It's like a game, because the culture is not that different. It's a Latino culture, fine. And there's a lot of family orientation and God-fearing. And it's old school. Neighbors know each other and they kiss the cheek and they walk arm in arm. It's beautiful. It's like, it's like the Cleavers. It's like going back in time, to my three dads. But I liked it because I felt it was pure. They're very much into nature. It's an ecotourism society. And so they're healthy. And when you go to the farmer's market, you can eat well and live well. I know there's the rice and beans and beer and all that good stuff, but no, I mean, most people are in very good shape here. They look great. They're beautiful. And it's a very nice culture. And so I was selective of wanting to stay here, but people can tell if your intentions are honorable. And just by having the manners that you had in front of your grandparents, by sitting up straight and your please and thank yous and taking turns, and it works. It's just those that might want to take advantage of you or be envious or just different and just want to make you the scapegoat that night and tease and talk about things in the United States and then point at you and go, it's your fault. You're like, but I don't even live there. I didn't do anything. And,
Sure.
yeah, come on, Yankee. You're like, Yankee? I'm a Philly. I don't like the Yankees. But no, I'm only kidding. But you understand my point. Start yelling at me. I'm here as a guest. So you will have some people with some issues that might hate a president, might hate politics, or they might think something and then they look at you and you look over there to see if it's that guy. But I've been in some funny situations, and then I've had others where they said, hey, you're the first person I ever met that's this, and this. Yeah. Wow, you've shattered all misconceptions. Mm-hmm. And so it goes both ways. Yeah.
It does. And just that last point you made is the ability or the focus now to, I don't want to use the word judgment, the focus to read into what a person is or might be just by appearance before even having a conversation, right, with the person. When you and I first got on the call, I could have looked at your profile picture and say, you know what, I don't want to talk to this guy. He looks this way, looks that way. He seems like he might say something, along these lines. And then we got on and we talked for the longest time.
That's right.
We got into your collectibles, we got into my culture, right. And, we talked about different geographical location, and we shared so much in common. That is something that we humans in a modern world sometimes don't give ourselves the opportunity to learn about one another and to find that commonality, right? We found a lot of commonality when you and I spoke, and, we both were looking forward to this particular meeting.
Yeah.
And do you think we need to exercise that muscle a little more? Just get to know somebody, get to talking to somebody. Maybe you'll come up with that, oh, you are this, and that. Oh, I wasn't expecting that, right? Nobody will look at me and know that I love to crochet, right? What? Right. Okay. Do you think that we should exercise as humans in this planet, in this bubble that we're on? It's important that we give each other the benefit of getting to know one another without being judgmental or selfish about our benefit and intention in life.
Yes. And I think depending on how many contacts you want and how much time you want to put in them, you could do it. Right. It's like Monopoly with the houses before the hotels, archaeologists, brushing off sand. You can do certain first downs and checkpoints with people. Some you get longer runs. Some it's shorter, some it's time.
Yeah.
So what happens is you might get offended that if you spend 20 minutes or a half an hour with somebody that they don't call you the next day, or we don't make plans for the next week. Oh, yeah. Who knows what's going on in their lives? And so we can't take things personal, okay? And the fact that people do communicate with you, I think it's fantastic. You can't judge people on what others have done or what they haven't done. Everyone works at their own pace. And you and I are special. And I'm going to say that. We're very special. We hit it off. We started talking, but you allowed me and I allowed you. And then we started going through certain topics and we saw how far they would go. And some were good, but then others were amazing. And so, but we gave the time. You're exceptionally busy. And so am I. But we realized in the course, and this is during a work day.
Right.
But we need this, and it's not even a timeout. You and I need this oasis in our crazy desert that even though it's not making money right now and we're not attending to our clients and patients, you and I needed to hang out on a Friday for a little bit and just talk because we know that for ourselves, it's being selfless. This is for us right now and for your audience. And so when we're recharged, we can go back and finish our day.
Right.
But you're bringing up some very good points: soft skills, bedside manner, empathy, second, third, and fourth follow-up questions, not prying. But if you have a dog, I'm going to ask its name, its breed, and how old is the puppy?
Yeah.
That's all. That's all I can do. And then the next time we talk, I ask how Fluffy is doing. And so you don't glance over. You actually show interest and give it some roots. Give it some real stability so you can get back to it later. It could grow.
Yeah.
And the 1,000 people you meet that day, how many people actually asked you about the third language and what's going on? And so you remember those things. I've had clients tell me that India and the Philippines gave better pricing than my call center in Costa Rica. But he goes, Richard, my goodness gracious, you were so nice to Judy, my secretary, that you wrote about her and you mentioned her to me. And prior to any sort of contract, if that's the sort of relationship that you're going to have with me and the people that work with me, who she's been with me for 2 decades, I want to definitely give you the business because I feel more comfortable with you.
Right.
I've gotten that. And it's not the thing I had to force fit or be slick or clever. Judy was the greatest. I just had to let you know. And she was like the nicest lady. And so it's helped. And also you were mentioning that you might see my profile and bio, and I got the suit and it's the telemarketing and I try to throw in the pinballs and Ricolas, but people might need to see pre-CEO Richard, the dreamer.
Yeah.
The long shot, the pre-expat that had the guts and the grit and the determination to leave our comfortable castles and to see if we can slay some dragons and really try life, really drink it. We had no idea where we were going. You ended up in Jersey. Yeah. I love it though. I love the Jersey Shore. Margate's great. Lucy 9600. But look where it took you, and you're not done yet. You're not retiring there, and I know that for a fact. And just like myself, we're going to continue. We're as we say in Spanish, patapero, where you see the dog marks, the footprints in the cement or in the snow. But good for you and me. That's why we're special, and that's why we're related, because we are expats. We travel the world, and we're beautifully open-minded to people, and that's what makes us shine.
Yeah.
And so I think that's why I'm on your podcast today, because you said prior, Richard, what do you want to talk about? I go, the last thing is sales. Telemarketing, come on. But let's talk about happy communication that make us smile and make us feel good.
Right. Absolutely. And we have that ability. We talked about energy, and the one thing that we make a mistake of this, and it's human. Is conservation, is self-preservation, is that we tend to retreat like, turtles or snails, when we have that not so positive interaction. But if you notice a turtle or a snail, what do? They retreat momentarily, but they come back out, right? And continue on their journeys, right? So when we retreat, we tend to retreat and just blanket. Sometimes. And in blanketing, yes, it can preserve you from further negative interaction. However, it's also impeding the people who bring joy into your life, right? So to make a generalization, because a person from this subgroup, a person from, this gender, a person from, this geographical area, the this and this and this and this, that means I'll just blanket everybody out that looks, resembles, sounds like, but you have really closed yourself off from a lot of people. Is that something that you agree with?
You were mentioning about taking steps back, snail.
Completely. Not
when
just
you are in a
retreat.
conflict or there's something that's bad.
Yes.
You need to, there's nothing wrong in the art of war to retreat, lick your wounds, regroup, get back. You're supposed to, even in lifting weights, you're supposed to have rest periods. And
Absolutely.
so you do not want to die on that hill. And you need to choose your battles wisely.
Yes.
And a lot of the times when you do take a step back, you do decompress. And you
Clarity
have a
too.
moment to think about it.
Absolutely.
Then things become clear. Did you overextend yourself? Were you just being easily offended? Was it something that they're just going through? And so, how about this? This is what's going to assist. If you know that what you are doing had honorable intentions and good faith, that's the only tree that can withstand that storm.
Yeah.
That's seaworthy. But don't confuse it with one person's freedom fighter as the other person's terrorist. That's not it. But if I'm a boss of a company and you're in charge of somebody's health and they're not coming to work and someone's not taking medicine or exercising and they're still smoking and my person's just not making, what are we supposed to do? Okay, these are the sort of come to clarification moments with people. Sometimes truth is the biggest hater. But there are certain ways to soften the blow. You could say, may I make a suggestion? So that's all of a sudden you get permission to say, listen, you need to wipe that mustard off your face. And then the second thing you could do as a second level is, listen, when I was a freshman in high school, I lost my books all the time. So I put them in the locker. Okay, so that's why you lost your books. So then you're comparing it that way and showing, and now I own a locker. So as you can see, I don't lose my books anymore. So that's another example. And then the third one is if you don't have a choice and you do realize someone could quit, someone could die, or the tarot card tower, it could be destroyed. You might have to lay your cards down that day. And I would be extremely selective of what you say. If it comes to the point of a potential never speaking to again or ending, I would take all emotion out and I would have to literally bare bone it and say, if you do not have $5 in gasoline, we're not getting to the beach. And I do not want to be stuck on the turnpike out of gas. It's not just you. I'm in the car with you and our friends too. So you need to be responsible. Is that going to ruin our friendship? It might, because you might get offended. But then again, hey man, we're not going to ruin Labor Day weekend because you're the one that forgot to put gas in the car or you weren't responsible. And so I'm just giving you an example where you have to lay it on the line compared to saying, hey man, my girlfriend's down there. Come on, man, we're going to miss the party. And come on, man, we paid all this money for the house. I mean, you don't go there. You're like, dude, be responsible. And also, how about this? We could get killed. Let's say a tractor truck doesn't see us with the fog and we're on the side of the road. That's the last place. And then the cops show up. Now you're getting a ticket for something. It's going to be the worst day ever. And so you might need to have that conversation before reminding, comparing, and then bottom lining. But then hopefully before we leave for the trip, you slept that night, you calmed down, you worked out, you ate a meal on it. And the next day you go, listen, man, we really got to talk about the gasoline. Yeah, you're right, Richard. I realized we need $10. I'm like, okay, good. So now we don't have to go there again. And so given the luxury of time, my friend, if you do not have to give that gunslinger snap back decision, there's no ultimatum right now or never. Tell me now. My goodness gracious, how much do you value our relationship? You're giving me an ultimatum of never again. Will you please allow me to ponder it, at least take a walk on it so I can decide? Is it just a bad moment for you? Or has this relationship run its course? And that's the saddest thing. That's the fading flower, or like the end of fall coming into winter. And that makes me so sad when something that was so bright and beautiful at one time dies and goes away. And maybe it's the circle of life, or people just change. But as I say before, my friend, if you and I are consistent just through love and empathy and understanding, maybe it's the other person that decided to step off of that mutual path that we were on.
Absolutely. And it's okay either way. I think the only person we can control is us. If anybody has taken anything from this conversation. Given Richard, we have a lot in common. I think we are going to continue this conversation one way or the other.
Yeah.
So if you've taken anything from this conversation, is focus on your energy, focus on the energy that you put out in the world. Be assertive when you need to, for your own energy protection, in a sense, and for your own safety. However, if it's not being reciprocated or the person doesn't take your presence in a way that you would like to be perceived, it's okay. Let it fall off, just like the fall leaves, like Richard said, let it fall off. Things are seasonal. People are seasonal as well. Some people are seasonal as well, right? The people that come into your life, like the bright, beautiful blossom in the spring, and there are others that fall off like the leaves in the fall. So please be kind to yourself, be kind to everybody you meet. Be a good person. Just be a good person. Be empathetic. Listen. Invest in being an inquisitive person. We're not saying be nosy. Please do not go diving into people's lives. Asking about Fluffy, what's Fluffy's name? Leave it at that. Next time you can ask about Fluffy. You can ask if Fluffy came from the pound. Was Fluffy bred for sale? Is Fluffy a mutt? It's not necessary. So, Richard, thank you for being here. I really appreciate this conversation. We needed this for us today.
I feel 10 times better. And I had the best time with you today. It was so much fun.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Please let us know what you think about this conversation. We're happy to have more of it because it is necessary. Let us know what you think. And also about Richard. We're going to include everything Richard in the show notes. So all of Richard's endeavors, businesses, his likes. He collects pinballs. So all of his likes and, everything that makes Richard will be included in the show notes. So all of you can get to know Richard. And if anybody is willing to reach out to him, to work with him, explore whatever Richard has to offer, we want you to have that opportunity. So we will include everything Richard blanks in the show notes. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, Richard, for being here. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to Abeg Vex Podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. It really helps us out. We'd love to hear your thoughts and continue the discussion. So join us on social media or drop us a message. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and keep pushing the boundaries of your world.